In the heart of Westside Grove, where broken windows echoed with the sound and sirens served as a daily soundtrack, a love story bloomed against all odds. The streets were hard, but hearts, they were harder. Yet even the toughest walls couldn't keep out the force of love. Shanice had grown up in this world, her mother working 2 jobs to keep food on the table, her father's presence long erased by the weight of the streets.
She was a fighter, not by choice but by necessity. By the time she was 21, she had developed a tough exterior, shielding her emotions from a world that had been nothing but cruel to her. But beneath that hard shell, she was a dreamer. She wanted something different, something more, something pure in a place that offered so little.
Then there was Malik. A product of the same streets, he'd fallen deep into the hustle to provide for his little sister after their mother passed. His heart was buried under layers of survival, his hands stained with the choices he'd been forced to make.
His reputation on the block was fierce. He was the one you didn't cross. But Malik had a secret that no one would suspect. His heart was tired. Tired of the violence, tired of the endless grind, tired of watching the world around him crumble while he fought just to stand.
It was one evening, just after the sun had dipped behind the towering, rusted apartment buildings, when their worlds collided. Shanice was at the corner store, picking up groceries for her mum, when a fight broke out in the street. Malik was in the mix, trying to calm things down. Guns were drawn, and the air was thick with tension. In the chaos, a stray bullet shattered the store windows, sending everyone diving for cover.
Shanice hit the floor hard, her hands covering her head, her breath coming in short gasps. Before she could process anything, she felt a firm grip on her arm, pulling her behind a nearby stack of crates.
It was Malik, his dark eyes scanning the chaos outside. "You good?" he asked, his voice low but calm.
Shanice nodded, her heart pounding. As the commotion outside died down, Malik glanced at her again. There was something different about the way he looked at her, like he saw beyond the fear in her eyes, beyond the rough exterior. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly.
"You don't gotta thank me," Malik said, but his eyes lingered on her for just a second too long before he turned back to watch the street.
They parted ways after that, both shaken but unharmed. Yet something had shifted in the air between them, a current neither of them could deny. Days turned into weeks and they began to cross paths more often.
Sometimes it was at the corner store, sometimes in the park where I liked to sit after work.
It was always by chance, but every meeting felt like destiny.
At first, our conversations were brief.
Malik wasn't much of a talker, and Shanice wasn't sure she wanted to get involved with someone who was so deeply entrenched in the streets.
But I couldn't deny the pull I felt toward him, the way his presence made me feel safe in a place where safety was a luxury.
One afternoon, Malik sat down beside her on a park bench, watching as kids played basketball nearby. His voice was low, almost hesitant when he spoke.
"You ever wonder if there's more to life than this?"
Shanice turned to him, surprised by the vulnerability in his question. She'd seen him as tough, unbreakable, but now she saw the cracks beneath the surface, the same cracks she hid so well in herself.
All the time, but sometimes it feels like we're stuck, you know? Like no matter how much we want to get out, these streets won't let us.
Malik nodded, his jaw tight.
"It's like they own us. But I don't want that for my sister, for you, or for me."
The weight of his words settled between them, heavy and real. For the first time, Shanice realized that Malik wasn't just another street hustler. He was a man who wanted more, just like her. They began to spend more time together, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. The streets tried to pull them apart, Malik's rivals, Shanice's fears, the constant danger that loomed over their world, but something stronger kept bringing them back to each other. Love, it wasn't perfect, far from it. There were nights when Malik didn't come home, caught up in the chaos of his world. There were moments when Shanice's trust wavered, her past making her question whether love could really survive in a place like this. But every time, they found their way back to each other, like 2 stars orbiting the same gravitational pull. Malik began making moves to get out of the game, to create a life where he didn't have to look over his shoulder every second. Shanice stood by him, offering him the hope and strength he didn't know he needed. And in the end, it was love that prevailed. Not the romanticized fairy tale love, but the gritty, raw kind that survives against all odds. The kind that doesn't crumble under pressure, but hardens like diamonds forged in fire. Because love wasn't just something they felt, it was their rebellion. Their way of fighting back against a world that told them they didn't deserve happiness, that people like them couldn't have a future together. But they did. They built it, brick by brick, day by day. In a place where everything else was broken, their love stood tall, strong, unshakable.